Hello, hello. It says I'm live. Should I let Coco in? She's scratching at the door. I just don't want there to be any squishings behind me. But she's so sweet and she's had a rough week. And there's other people in the house she can cuddle with. I'm surprised she wants to cuddle with me since I'm the one that keeps taking her to the appointments. Anyway, let's get started with our video today. I'm always so happy when I can get my videos going because, you know, there's just no guarantees in life, right? And it's so therapeutic for me. I was going to text a mod or two, and it says my battery's low. Don't you hate that? Like, it's impossible to stay on top of all these things. Let's see. So do I have anybody in the house? I think I'm all plugged in. I don't know if anyone can tell me. I have one person here. If you can just say if you can hear me, and I'll type it in just in case you can't hear me and you're just reading my lips. Audio good. So it says there's two people. So maybe somebody can answer. Annabise, you are the best. Hello, hello. You are such a loyal viewer. I love that. How are you today, my dear? And Coco is still scratching at the door. Let me know if you guys can hear it. She's not at the moment, but if she continues, I'll just let her in. I just worry because my chair has wheels, and even though I don't move it very much, I would hate it to pinch her toe or anything like that. That would be awful. So I love having my mic. I love having my people here. I've got so much to talk with you guys about. I don't know how I have so much to talk with you guys about every day, but I do. You know, I take notes throughout the day while I'm thinking, while I'm doing things. And a lot of things come to me when I wouldn't expect it. Like I'll just kind of have an insight or a breakthrough. And if I don't write it down, I won't remember it to save my life. Sherry, hello, hello. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. Let's see. I don't even know which one that's going to pin. That pinned Annabise with the Sherry in the heart. So Annabise says she's doing so well. I titled this. I don't know if anybody reads the titles. What did I title it? Good, bad, and ugly, something like that. Is everything good, bad, or ugly? Because, you know, that was a Clint Eastwood movie when I was growing up, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I thought that was such a cool title, and it works in a lot of real life situations. But a lot of what seems good can turn out to have quite the downside. And a lot of times things that seem not good can actually turn out to really have an upside, right? And Sherry says, yes, I read the titles. Annabise says, I remember that movie. Well, I'm glad somebody reads the titles. I don't know that everybody does. And, you know, I usually change them. Like I make the title as I'm coming on live, and then later I try to review my videos so that I can make sure that I get all of the things in the description, all the links that I promised during my video, because I'm not writing them down all the time. I try, but I like to review them anyway to see if I catch any mistakes or something. It is kind of hard watching yourself. I mean, even just watching myself on the screen right here, right now, if you notice, I'm often looking away. And I think a lot of content creators do that. I'm good. I'm at my house now, so I get some much better reception. Excellent. And I heard the Coco at the door one more time. I'm just going to go ahead and let her in. She's such a love bug. Come here, baby girl. Come on. Can you come up and say hi to everybody? Come here, honey. See if you can. She's like, no, I just want to lay down in my little hidey spot. Oh, she's so cute. She is such a sweetie. She's doing really well. So And then I have a fan over here, which in the last video, I kept doing this because it keeps blowing like a hair or two onto my cheek and nose, and it drives me nuts. So I tried to move the fan so that won't happen, but I might just have to sit like this so that it doesn't keep doing that, because it's crazy making. It's always something, right? It gets really warm in here because it's so freaking cold outside. We have the heat cranked up, and then, you know, I don't want to be like overexposing myself with all my like halter tops and stuff. I mean, in the summer, that's okay, but in the winter, that's kind of weird. And I got a really cool halter top on under all of this layers. But if I get hot, I might have to take off some of the layers. So where should we start? You know, I'm always processing the Kiely Rodni case. I'm often processing the Meredith Kercher case, which I haven't talked about that one in a while. Amanda Knox, she's so hateful. The last few days, I've sort of had this theme of the whistleblowers, and I thought, like, does every case have a whistleblower? It kind of seems like that. Like, every legal issue involves some group getting ratted out, right? I mean, not every, but it kind of seems like it lately. So, I guess not in the Meredith Kercher case. There was no like whistleblowing there, I don't think. That was just sadistic. That was absolutely sadistic. And also with the Mo Wilson case, that was also just simply sadistic. A lot of jealousy. I think jealousy with Mo Wilson, obviously. Jealousy with Meredith Kercher, obviously. Jealousy with Kiely Rodni, obviously. Jealousy with Shanann Watts, obviously. It made me think of the Idaho 4. Like, there probably was some whistleblowing type of thing there. And there probably was some jealousy. And I just go back to thinking that the two roommates, the witnesses that aren't witnesses, like, that was some crazy double think, double speak talk, small fry. No wonder he had to quit. The witnesses that weren't witnesses. I didn't say they were witnesses. They were there. So I've told you guys this. It's hilarious. If you Google witness, it basically says someone who was there. I just have to do it just for fun, just for shits and giggles. So let me run through all of my stuff that I usually run through. You know, the thumb and the begging for subs and all that. And then disclaimer. Witness. Oh, honey, she's fine. Honey, she's fine.
I thought she could go for a car ride without.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you want her to come out. Coco, come on out. Go for a car ride.
Is she behind you?
Yeah.
Coco, let's go for
Come on, babe. There you go.
Let's go for a ride.
Yeah, that'll be good. Thanks. So, yeah, she loves car rides. And if she's not going to the doctor every time she gets in the car, then that'll help for when we have to take her to the doctor. Today was the first day where like she wouldn't get out of the car. If I hadn't had a snack with me, I probably would have had to get professional help to get her out of the car. And she's not even a big dog. But anyway, so witness. Let's see. If you look up witness, Wikipedia talks about a movie. Definition of witness. Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Witness definition and meaning. 1, attestation of a fact or event, testimony, one that gives evidence, specifically one who testifies in a cause or before a judicial tribunal. Here we go. It gets better. 1 asked to be present at a transaction so as to be able to testify to it having taken place. 1 who has personal knowledge of something, so you don't even have to be there. If you live in that house, you probably have some personal knowledge of something, even if you weren't there. Serving something serving as evidence or proof, like a sign, public affirmation by word or example of usually religious faith or conviction. And then if it's capitalized, it usually means Jehovah's Witness. I'll just read a little bit more if I'm not going to drive you crazy nerding out, right? Witness verb, so that was all noun. To testify, to attest, to act as legal witness of, to furnish proof of, and then it says betoken, which I've never even seen that word. You guys probably have, right? Once you register a new word, now I'll see it like 3 times in the next week, right? To have personal or direct cognizance of, see for oneself, to take note of, to constitute the scene or time of, to bear witness. Okay, I think that's enough nerding out, right? I always like to look at synonyms too. She's scratching at the door again. I thought they were taking her on a drive. Anyway, so yeah, the Bethany and Dylan in the Idaho 4, like we've said it before, but we haven't said it in a long time. If they were not cute little blonde white girls, they'd be treated as persons of interest. And they were pretty much never treated as persons of interest. They would have been like brutalized in an interrogation for not calling 911 for 8 hours or ever, right? Someone else came over and had to do it for them. Right, but they're not going to, the law enforcement isn't going to bust the supervisors of the sororities that the sorority girls are beholden to call before they call anyone else, even when there's been a tragedy or fatality. They sign a contract, but that's illegal. Like, the law is that you have to call 911 as soon as you know about something, unless you're in a frozen shock phase, right? Or if you're being held hostage. Remember that journalist that was like, oh, so they were there and they didn't call for 8 hours, so were they being held hostage? Remember all those great questions? Hey, Hella. Glad she's doing well. Me too. I feel so fortunate. It's sad when you're at the vet and you see all the people whose pets are not having that type of a result. I feel like we were living in an upside down. Yeah. I was listening to Jules about the Idaho 4. Yeah, I was listening to Jules live streaming some of the motions or the hearings of the day. And yeah, how crazy is that? What, there was some red liquid bodily fluid of a different male that was found somewhere inside the house. I also watched some Nancy Grace and I just couldn't. I made some comments to her. I'm just like, you are obsessed with pinning it on this guy. You know, instead of taking that other case that happened over a year prior and looking at that as a possibility that maybe that was somebody else that had something to do with Idaho 4. She's doing it the opposite. She's like, well, that was obviously Brian Koberger warming up to the grand finale. And then she exaggerates so bad. She says it was just a few months before. It's like, no, it was a year and a few months before. And then she says, you know, just a little bit down the road. And it's like, it was in a different town. It was in Pullman, where he was living at the time of the Idaho 4, but he was living in Pennsylvania at the time of that other thing. And for all we know, he hadn't even applied to that freaking school yet. I mean, I don't know the date, the deadline for the application for the doctorate program. When I've applied for the fall, the deadline is usually like January 1st. So for all we know, you know, he had other applications in. I don't know. Anyway, it's just really frustrating. I usually kind of side with Nancy Grace. I like her attitude of, just sheer, she's a pit bull, you know, she really fights for the victims and fights for justice. And she is a victim. And I doubt she's ever gotten justice when her fiance was red rummed. Even if the person that did it got sentenced, it doesn't always feel like justice, especially because a lot of times the court cases are kind of glossed over and everybody knows it. Like you look at the Watts case, you know, the family knows it, the law enforcement knows it, the criminals know it, the attorneys know it, the judge knows it. It's just that that's the best that they can do, where they can show solid evidence and build the case or get the confession and all that. And we all know that confessions are extremely unreliable. Like you can pretty much torture somebody enough to get them to confess to anything, right? I mean, but interrogations are an art and they're brutal. I mean, when we look at the 3-hour and 33-minute video of Nicole Kessinger being interviewed, that's not an interrogation, and that should have been an interrogation. That's just like a conversation, really. I mean, it takes a lot sometimes for people to break. I mean, Chris Watts was being interrogated and then he finally broke. And, you know, they had to like do some shifty stuff to get him to break. And then they were so happy when he did, even though they knew he was lying. Again, you know, you take what you can get. If that's all that they'll confess to, you can choose to work with it or not. And I think a lot of times they'll take the confession because it's really, I mean, the detective work is not easy. I never have done it, but I know it's seriously challenging. Like, again, looking at the Delphi case, and I've been looking more into that, and that might become a case that I really need to focus on, because this other person whose property it was, the Indiana farmer, and I didn't write his name down. I was about to, but I was like, oh, I'll remember it because it's like Ron something. He's all over the news right now. You guys, you know, right? The Delphi update, because it's big time. So Richard Allen was sentenced to 130 years, and he confessed to it. He didn't have the right evidence that he confessed to. You know, very simple, as he said that he put them in shallow graves, and neither of them was in a shallow grave. So the other guy whose property they were on, and he passed away January of 2022. And I'm not getting his name pulled up, but he had a girlfriend, an ex-girlfriend, who, as soon as she had seen the image of the guy on the bridge, she thought that it was him. And I don't even know if she knew it was on his property at that point in time. But I want to know things about him. I want to know what he was on probation for. I want to know how many acres his farm is. I want to know how much money he has and who he's affiliated with, and if he's friends with law enforcement. Because it's very convenient, too, that he is not alive anymore. And I'll get your comments. Hold on one sec. Oh, terrible. So Delphi suspect confessed to crimes in prison. This is a CNN article. Can't believe it's not giving me the other person's name whose property they were discovered on. Like, that just shows you how much they control us with the information. My goodness. And this is a real current CNN article. So, farmer. Sorry, my phone is extra slow too. Indiana farmer Delphi case. It's wild. It doesn't want to go there. It just wants to keep giving you everything about Richard Allen. Ron Logan. Okay. So News Nation, which is not my favorite source. So Ron Logan is the farmer who was driving around, was on probation, and he was, or on parole, on probation. I'm not even sure the difference. But I'm going to read you guys this real quick. Delphi murders. Ron Logan's ex-girlfriend says he could be the unaliver. This is from 12 hours ago. The ex-girlfriend of a former person of interest in the Delphi murders case has exclusively told News Nation she believes he could have committed the unalivings. Richard Allen's attorney filed a flurry of documents this week suggesting their client's conviction for the 2017 unalivings should be vacated over key errors the state allegedly made. The defense alleges the state knew of a jailhouse confession from a man named Ron Logan and didn't disclose the information. So that would be a Brady Giglio thing, because that's reasonable doubt, if nothing else. Logan, the now deceased homeowner of the property where the girls' bodies were found, was a person of interest at the beginning of the investigation, but was never charged. Logan's ex-girlfriend, Connie Dillman, joined Banfield Thursday with her take on the story. I know when he walks. I just had an intuition, Dillman said in response to the video recorded on German's phone of a man walking on a bridge used as evidence in the case. Dillman claims that as soon as she saw the video about Bridge Guy, she knew it was her ex-boyfriend. And a lot of his ex-girlfriends said that he was extremely abusive. I know his build, and to me, that looks exactly like him. And he has like a gimpy leg or something, too. You guys have all probably noticed that in the video. Not gimpy, but slightly gimpy. I mean, even when I heard the voice, you know, it sounded just like him. Although she said, seen the voice. A booking photo shows Richard Allen, who was arrested in October of 2022. So this guy, Ron Logan, he passed away January of 2022. So their suspect was deceased, the guy whose property they were on. Let me read you the rest of this because it is really interesting. And then I'll get caught up with you guys and do all those other things I keep saying I'm going to do. Mind juggling. Thanks for being here, Fred and Sherry. And I promise. Let's see. So October 2022, charged with the 2 counts of red rum in the unalivings of Abby and Libby, whose bodies were found on February 14th after the girls went for a walk on the Delphi Historic Trails. Describing their relationship as very volatile and Logan as aggressive and manipulative, Dillman said her gut tells her he was involved. It's not something I really want to relive, but I just know his nature. I know his property, Dillman said. I'm just going with my gut feelings, just the kind of person he is. Logan allegedly had an interest in young girls, according to Dillman, which led to fights between the couple. He sold a horse to a girl who didn't live far from there. She was 13, actually, and he was touchy with her, she said. It just didn't feel right with me. Teenagers Libby and Abby were unalived in Delphi, Indiana in 2017. Dillman said she reported Logan to the police 3 or 4 times before seeing the video of the bridge guy. So even before she saw the video of bridge guy, you guys, I mean, it's probably a pretty small town, I think. So she probably heard that they were on his property, and she, you know, that would lead you to believe that he might have something to do with it. I mean, most farmers survey their property like daily. I mean, my granddad was a farmer and my father-in-law was a farmer, and they walk their property line every day if they're good farmers, because you might have fence issues, you might have animal issues, you might have people issues. You got to stay on top of it. Alan's lawyers are in court requesting his sentence be thrown out over errors in the case, including the alleged detailed confession Logan made in 2017. Alan also confessed to the unalivings in December of last year, and he was sentenced to 130 years in prison. I think that's the whole article. It's not the same one that I read earlier, but that's that. So let's go make sure I'm still caught up about the Jewels of all trades. I didn't really like Jules, but I do now. She is very smart. I know, you know, she doesn't sugarcoat anything, and I love that about her. But yeah, you kind of have to, you know, I mean, we're all human, and I think we all, sometimes the same content creators that I like a lot, there's times when I'll quit liking them. So it goes up and down. It's just like any other relationship. You know, it's like fantasy YouTube relationship. I'm sure you guys love me every second, right? I never drive you crazy or nothing. I only drive myself crazy. How are things in Scotland today? Sherry asks. Helby. Did I say it right? Helby? Sherry, a tad windy today, 100-mile-an-hour winds, but starting to move across Orkney and the Shetland Isles. Wow. 100-mile-an-hour winds is like the Santa Anas in LA. And those fires are still going. I didn't want you guys to think I was a complete wingnut when I was suggesting yesterday that they might have been set by arsonists, which we know that because there's a handful of arsonists who've been arrested. But were those arsonists coordinating together? Are they part of a bigger thing or not? And they've had like no rain since May last year. I think they're supposed to be getting rain soon, though, but that's not going to put the fires out unless it's like rivers of rain. And I think some fires are happening in San Diego, which is really far from Los Angeles. Like, I mean, 50 or 100 miles, I think. I mean, I never really went to San Diego when I lived in LA. Everything was in LA. Why would I go down there? I mean, there's a lot down there. I'm being a silly little Southern California snob teenager that I was back in the day. So on the staircase, a tad windy. Wow. That's some wind, crazy weather. Well, and hopefully no fires with all the greenery and the lush wetness. Yes, you can torture someone into saying anything. Ron Logan, thanks you guys. No notification, Fredfield says. You need to file a grievance with YouTube, right? And I also try not to make that noise that I just made with my mouth. That's terrible. When I hear myself doing that, I'm like, stop. Just like that word that starts with a U and ends with an M. Try so hard not to say that, but sometimes it happens. And it's hard habits to break, but you have to when you're doing this, or you're going to drive yourself and other people nuts. So how are things up your way, Fred? Sherry, I'm getting tired of the seemingly constant follow-up doctor appointments after my 2-day hospital stay last November. Yeah, I thought you were going to say that you're getting tired of the freezing cold weather because it has been feeling really warm here in Ohio because it's been double digits, like in the teens and in the 20s, and it feels warm because it was single digits there for a couple of days. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So please make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, consider doing it. It is a great way to help out the content creators that you enjoy and encourage them to keep making more. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel. Turn on your notification bell to ring and complain to YouTube if they don't honor that. And then where's the thumb? I moved it because it's always hard to pick it up from over here. So I moved it to over there. Hit your like button. And everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational, hang out with my true crime chat people that I absolutely adore. And every video that I have made to date has been for YouTube, and it's an entertainment platform. So I've been watching a lot of stuff. C3PO, what's up? What is up? I've been watching a lot of stuff, politics. I'm actually really surprised with myself that I'm like almost more interested in that than true crime. As I've said, I feel like the politics and the true crime have had a head-on collision. Seriously. And I just don't know what to think. You know, the angry orange man baby says that, you know, he wants to clean up all the streets from all the dangerous criminals that he claims are illegal immigrants. And then he sets 1,600 dangerous criminals loose on the streets that have been convicted. And I think 2 of them have already been rearrested, and they've only been out for what, 3 days? I think it was Monday that he signed crap to release them. They were probably released Tuesday. I think one was rearrested on Tuesday night. I think one was rearrested yesterday or the day before. And, you know, we're at Friday now. And I mean, the one specifically that beat Brian Sicknick, he passed away the next day. And it's frustrating to me. I can't imagine how frustrating it is for the family that the freaking autopsy says he died of natural causes, you guys, because he had a series of strokes. But I don't even know what kind of condition he was in from the time that he left the Capitol riots until that happened. I mean, I don't know if he had to be taken in an ambulance. I don't know. I don't know the details. I don't know if he seemed normal and went home. And then, you know, I mean, a concussion can do that too. Like if you have a head injury, you're not supposed to go to sleep. Or if you do fall asleep, you need to be woken up every so often to make sure that you don't slip away. But Brian Sicknick's family has been getting more outspoken. I think they were blown away with the election results. I think that they were blown away earlier this week with everyone being released, even the most violent and dangerous. There was one who fired a pew-pew into the air, and that one was released too. Like they all were. Maybe not all. It might be that there was a couple that weren't, but basically it was this blanket of literally the angry orange man baby said, F it. He literally said, F it, just let them all go, because it was just too much work to go through one by one. And something else that drove me crazy, you know, when he was signing all of those things on Monday, he had the stack of what people are calling Cheesecake Factory menus, right? Because they look just like the Cheesecake Factory menus. And then he had a bunch of black Sharpies. You know, he does this giant freaking signature that seems way too long for the number of letters that are actually in his name. He just enjoys it so much. He just goes on and on and on with this zigzagging. And then he was sitting on a stage with a desk on the stage and then making all these faces and comments with each one of them like it was a freaking Christmas present. Like, oh, what's this? Oh, pulling out of the World Health Organization. Yay, yippee. And, you know, we're not supposed to be updated with any information about anything. Like, it is getting so freaking 1984 Handmaid's Tale that I'm thinking I might just have to watch the whole television series of The Handmaid's Tale because I've never watched it. And, you know, I'm always referring to the book. I'm always referring to the movie. And yeah, it might be time to watch that, but I don't know. It's a little much. Anyway, one of the things that drove me nuts with all that signing is that he's got the microphone by the paper and the pen so that you can hear the noise of it, like scritchy scratchy. Like, the man is such a freaking drama queen, such a freaking drama queen. And one of the things I saw today was about the Prime Minister of Canada, who is like absolutely livid and ready to go to war over the threats and the treatment that they're getting. And not like war, like with cannons and pew-pews and stuff, but like a trade war, basically. And yeah, that can be dangerous. That can escalate so quickly. Steve Bannon, you know, he's a crazy mofo. And I keep finding myself agreeing with him, you guys. I'm like freaking out about that. I'm like, Steve has never seemed so smart to me. I told you how, like, Michael Cohen and who's the other guy? Scaramucci. Scaramucci seemed like the craziest mofo. Michael Cohen seemed like the dirtiest dirtbag. Both of them, I think, are phenomenal individuals. Like, they have changed their ways. You can tell they didn't just do it to try to make themselves look good, but they actually did it for the right reasons. And it kind of seems like Steve Bannon might have even done something like that. And he's like the grossest of the gross. I mean, he's like the filthiest of the unethical, hideous monsters, in my opinion. But he's looking like quite the opposite right now. Like, he's questioning everything. And he was just released from prison right before Trump was inaugurated. I don't know the exact date, but he served something like 6 months. And that can't be fun, especially when you're putting your neck out there for somebody who not only doesn't care about anybody but themselves, but they just keep making that more and more abundantly clear. And I don't even think that the angry orange man, baby, zombie president cares about any of those freaking billionaires. He would, I'm sure, have them all sent to the guillotine in a heartbeat if he thought he could keep their money, which is probably what his plan is. And it just dawned on me today or yesterday that he's probably thinking that he's like the king. We know that he's thinking that he's the king, but he's probably thinking that by being the president and then changing all the laws and making himself like the king or the baron or whatever, you know, we know his son's name is Baron too, that he can basically own not only America, but then he thinks he can own Canada and Greenland. And he thinks he's like this real estate mogul. He thinks that all the money in the government is his to, you know, cut off all these programs like education and health and military, so he can save all these trillions of dollars and then he can just like keep the money for himself. Like, he's beyond insane. Like, I am not going to sugarcoat anything anymore period. Like, he's so freaking nuts. And we're like 4 days in. We're 4 days in. Monday he was sworn in. So Tuesday makes a day. Wednesday 2, Thursday 3. Today is day 4. The man is completely off his rocker. And he's probably going to need tranquilizers soon if he's not already on them. You know, people get power drunk. People get power drunk. And I wouldn't call him power drunk. I would call him something of a different nature entirely. Like, I'm always thinking of the Dr. Strangelove. You know how that movie ended? Peter Sellers playing the H guy from World War II. And he's like sitting on a rocket cannon type of thing. Basically a bomb. And he's flying through the air. He's riding the bomb. Isn't that how it ended? I mean, I haven't seen it since I was like 8. Another movie that my father tortured me with, Dr. Strangelove. It sounded like a good title, but as a kid, it was not very interesting, especially because it's all in black and white and you don't understand the humor. I'm sure I'd probably like it now, but I've always associated the angry orange man, baby, zombie guy with Dr. Strangelove. And yeah, like, not to be rude, you guys, trigger warning, but it's like he gets a hard-on for this crap. I mean, he's got a hard-on for the freaking money and the billionaires. And that term that I shared with you guys a couple of days ago, the broligarchs, is like spread like wildfire. Like, everybody's saying it now. It's so funny. Like, everybody is saying broligarchs because that's what they are. So let me get caught up with you guys again. I am sorry about all of the health issues, Fred. You know, when you have appointments that seem unnecessary, just be grateful that they seem unnecessary. But it does monkey wrench your day and your life. I understand completely. It's actually in the 50s here in Oklahoma today, down to 0 the other night. Woo. And see, and then the whole climate change denial. It's like, give me a joke. Give me a break, you know? I mean, you can't deny climate change. Like, all of these crazy hurricanes and floods and droughts, it's not normal. You know, we've had so many of these catastrophic events that are like once in a century, once in a millennium, and they just keep happening. Like, was it called Hurricane Sandy, the superstorm Sandy? Wasn't that like a trifecta of like 3 hurricanes that all converged? I think it was October 28th of 2012. Yeah, it was 2012. It was October. I think it was the 28th. But that was nuts. That was absolutely nuts. And they kept talking about it before it happened. And people were like, nah, that's not going to happen. They're just trying to make news headlines. And then it happened like worse than the prediction. And then, you know, you think about Hurricane Andrew. Was that the one in Miami 20 years ago? And then there was like Ida, Katrina. Remember Katrina that hit Houston? What was the one that hit Biloxi? Was that Katrina also that also hit Biloxi, that put Biloxi on the map? Man, they're just coming at us 100 miles an hour, no pun intended. And it doesn't seem like there's anywhere that's safe. If the thunder don't get you, the lightning will. But fear not, my friends. We can all band together. We can learn from these things. We can troubleshoot. I think it's imperative that we pay attention, especially if we're not getting information through things like, you know, the regular avenues of information coming from media or social media or the government. Like all that stuff is basically on lockdown already, like a blackout. It's crazy. It's so effed up. I mean, what are you hiding, dude? Besides everything. Did you guys see my thumbnail from a couple days ago where I put the Spy versus Spy cartoon next to Melania with her freaking Spy versus Spy weird hat thing that she wore to the inauguration, that she looked like she was at a funeral? Wow. The cold has been brutal for the walk in from the employee parking lot fringes. I know, it's so harsh. And I like to go for walks outside, and I will pretty much go for a walk in any weather. I just layer up and, you know, stay prepared. But sometimes it's just not a wise idea. One of my kids went sledding a couple of weeks ago when it was in the 20s, and then she was sick for like 2 weeks. And I tried to tell her that's what happens when you go sledding in that cold of weather for that long. And she was like, no, Mom, I was feeling sick before I went. And I'm like, well, all the much more reason why you shouldn't have done it, silly child. I haven't read or watched The Handmaid's Tale. It's one of those things similar to the sharp objects that I've been talking so much about, that, and like the surviving R. Kelly too, or that other one, On the Record, the one I was talking about yesterday. They're hard to watch, but they're actually like uplifting, because you see the strength and the perseverance of humanity. And it can be difficult. It's absolutely inspiring, actually, for me. Just like when I went and visited the what do they call it, the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. You guys, has anybody been there? Wow. It's terrifying, and it's depressing, and it's awful, and it's uplifting. I mean, I was shocked that it was all of those things. One sec. Man, the commitment that people have to fight the good fight and to resist is the key word, you know. Resist. Like, don't allow people to push you around. And that's all this man baby orange zombie dude is a freaking bully. And I'm sure that's why Melania hasn't divorced him, is because she knows that she'll end up like Ivana. And if she outlives him, she'll get a lot of money. Unless he is just lying about it all and she ends up inheriting billions of dollars of debts, which is probably more likely. I mean, oh my goodness. That whole freaking thing with the meme coin, you know, it's not the same as a Bitcoin. Anyway. Somebody that I saw, I'll put a link in the description. I think he was on The Bulwark that I watch, or one of those channels. He confessed that the morning that the stump coin came out, he bought a whole bunch of them right at 9 o'clock, and then he sold them 90 minutes later, and he made a pile of cash. So, you know, he hadn't ever done anything like that before, he said. And he said it was just thrilling, and that he felt horrible about it, and that he had to confess on YouTube. Bannon served time for refusing to testify for J6. Thank you, MC3PO. And yeah, that other one, Hope Hicks, she got involved in this stuff really young. And then there's Cassidy Hutchinson, who was in the news yesterday because they didn't want her to testify because she was getting a lot of explicit texts from congressmen because she was young and hot. So they didn't have Cassidy testify. Cassidy was one of his aides that basically flipped on him, which is also what Jessica Denson was or is. Hope Hicks, I think, has been really quiet ever since she resigned. And I think she resigned like a year in. But she'd been with him from the start. So, and again, she was a model, you know, like, why would you hire a model to work on your campaign with you? Unless you just have the hots for them and you want them nearby and you want to be their boss so that you can exploit them. Perhaps. I'm not making an accusation. I'm asking a question. Is that why? Is that why? Bannon served time. Yeah. Emperor has no clothes. It's way past that, baby. Way past that. Like, doesn't he realize what a jackass he's making of himself? Nobody respects him. Even the people that are pretending to respect him don't. They're just playing the game to try to keep in with the moolah and the power. I mean, I don't think any of his kids respect him. I don't think Melania respects him. I don't think Vance respects him or Vance's wife. Come on. Even Barron is probably just like so over it, having grown up in this whole crap show. And then he's got a star on Hollywood, like on the, you know, the Hollywood Stars of Fame or whatever they call that. There's a Trump one. That's bizarre. There's probably a Ronald Reagan one too, come to think of it, huh? Now my head hurts. But, you know, he's so thin-skinned. And, you know, I'm sure he wouldn't be threatened at all by me saying anything about him because I'm just a girl. And he's such a sexist bastard. Rat bastard. But he is very upset with those comedians that I like so much, like Jon Stewart, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers. There's another one that I watch a lot. Well, The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, that covers a lot of them, like Ronnie Chang. And that Desi chick, she's hilarious. All the people on The Daily Show. Stephen Colbert, that was the other one I couldn't think of. I mean, he's furious with them. He's trying to shut them down. He's threatening them. I wouldn't be surprised if he had their neighborhoods burned down. Like, seriously. No, I'm not making an accusation. I'm asking a question. Would he be so mad that he would put arsonists up to setting fires in their neighborhoods or in the writers for the shows? Because I bet a lot of writers for those shows have had to evacuate and or have had their homes burned down. I've never seen Dr. Strangelove. Anna B's, now I'm going to have to watch it since we're talking about it. Muy Loco, Fred, thank you for summing it all up. Now we can move on. Next topic. 2012 is correct. Near Halloween. Katrina, yes, also submerged New Orleans. Right. I think of the Astrodome in Houston, where then they had Astroworld happen a few years ago, the tragedy with all the people getting trampled. Wasn't that like the same property? Isn't Astrodome at Astroworld? I'm pretty sure it's the same property. And yeah, when they were housing everybody there, it was horrific. Like, there were all kinds of assaults and crimes. And so, yeah, they probably had people from New Orleans going to the Astrodome. Thank you for reminding us all that Katrina was New Orleans. And so was Katrina, that wasn't the one that hit Biloxi. I think Biloxi was before that, right? Because Biloxi was like 15 or 20 years ago, wasn't it? Where's my phone? Let me Google it. Can't stand it when my brain doesn't work. Biloxi hurricane. I mean, that whole town. When was it? It was Katrina. That was August 29th, 2005. So yeah, that was almost 20 years ago. Wow. That was a wild one. I was thinking Katrina was more recent, but okay. It's all a blur. You know, I had my first child in 2002, my second child in 2004. So I was kind of busy. Then I had my third child in 2007. And then we had another one in 2012. So, you know, I'm still coming out of that mama brain meltdown. I don't know how I survived it. I don't know if I have survived it, actually. We're not there yet. Almost. The psychological gymnastics that those teenagers torture you with. It's like a sport for them. They enjoy it. They do it on purpose. Let's see. So many things to try to keep straight. There was another school pew, I think in Tennessee. Thanks for reminding me, Anna. I wanted to talk about that. It's insane the amount of news like TMI. Yeah, absolutely tragic. I saw a mom interviewed on the news, and her daughter was not very shaken up by it, and her mom was very shaken up by it, and even more shaken up when her daughter said very nonchalantly, "It's okay, Mom, those things happen." And the mom's just like, you know, the brains of the teenagers, I mean, they've grown up in such a different time than us. You know, by the time I was out of high school and in college was when that movie Heathers came out. And at the end of Heathers, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, Christian Slater and Winona Ryder are ready to like blow up their school. And it's like all cute and funny because they're like smoking cigarettes, and instead of like setting off the bomb, they just light their cigarette or something. I can't remember. But, you know, it's not funny anymore. Not after Sandy Hook and the one down in Florida that inspired the whole March on Washington. I was at that March on Washington, you guys, with my whole family. And then the one in Uvalde, the one in Texas with the freaking douchebag law enforcement who didn't want to go in because what was it, like the day before he was retiring or something, and he didn't feel like saving anybody's life. I mean, the thing with being a cop, I know this because I'm married to one, is not only that they're brave to do their job, but they know that they're trained to know how to take care of the situation and bring the MF down. And they know that the teachers and the students are not trained for that. So for somebody who's trained for that to stand outside the door, like, he should get the firing squad. You know, when people talk about the firing squad with Koberger, it's just like, relax, man. Like, sure, if he did it the way you think he did it, then yeah, that might be appropriate. But that doesn't seem like it's even remotely possible. I think we need to look more at Dylan. I think we need to look more at Bethany. And I think we need to look more at Dylan's gangsta boyfriend, Quinn. Not to mention the frat freaks, not to mention Coomer Scott Green, not to mention the law enforcement freaks. Can you tell I've kind of had it? Like I said, I'm not sugarcoating nothing. So yeah, I'm probably going to get my channel turned off. Oh, well, then I'll have to go over to Rumble or one of those crazy things, right? Patreon, I don't know. Probably should do that anyway. Try to make a little bit of money with this little hobby obsession that I've got. Thanks again for being here, you guys. Yeah, let me read the rest of that so many things to try to keep straight. There was another school pew, I think in Tennessee. Yeah, I think 2 were unalived, but one of those was the shooter. I think he unalived somebody else and sent somebody else to the hospital, I think, and then he did himself in. One unalive, and the perp took himself out, and he also pewed another that lived. Yep, same. And Anna Bees is laughing, but that was like 15 minutes ago, so who knows what that was. Something misfiring in your audio. Well, it does that a lot. And I think sometimes it's almost like it's intentional because it's right when I'm saying a certain word. But also some of it is just the technology, just the glitches. So, yeah. And I think if I'm getting very animated and moving my hands a lot quickly, that really messes it up. So that's why I always try to put my hands down, try not to use my hands and get so animated. Travis Scott concert. Yeah, I wanted to talk with you guys about the Travis Scott concert. I've asked for my viewers' help in figuring out who the young rapper is that live streamed himself in his car right after the concert. And then he was interviewed by Rich Lux the next day. And then he showed up in somebody's video recently. They showed that clip. And I was so glad that they did, because I'm pretty sure he got scrubbed off the internet. And remember yesterday when I was trying to show you that video of Sarah Cooper? So it showed up in her regular videos. It said it was 5 years old. It said it had 2.8 million views. I hit play and it started for like a split second and then it disappeared. But then I was able to play it for you because I found it in a compilation. So I just played the beginning of the compilation. It was the first one. But then I found it again in the shorts of hers. So I think they took the one out of her regular videos because it was there. It was listed. There was like one from 8 years ago, and then that one from 5 years ago, and then a few that were from 4 years ago. And then it was gone. So anybody who screen records might want to screen record some of her stuff, because she's probably going to get hit too, right? The Walk of Fame. Oh, thank you. The Walk of Shame. Yeah. Yeah, that whole thing with The Apprentice. And, and now it's like the government apprentice, basically. He doesn't know what the F he's doing. He has no clue. He's so unhinged. Like, that's the best word for him. Unhinged. And then even like the village people, like, they're not okay with him. The actual village people that are still alive that aren't in the band anymore were like offended that the people that are in that band that they were affiliated with were doing that thing. And then the current ones came out and said anybody who calls it like the gay anthem again is going to get sued. It's like, because the angry orange man baby can't deal with the fact that he didn't know that that's what that song was, and he just loves that song. Like, get over it, dude. It's fine to love a song for whatever reason and then find out it's about something that you're not cool with. I mean, it happens. There's a lot of great songs out there that are about some pretty twisted stuff, right? There's like, oh, what's her name? Tori Amos. You guys know Tori Amos? I'll put some of her songs in the description. She was raped. And that's what a lot of her songs are about, because she was a musician, and that's how she works through her trauma, is by writing songs and singing them. And that song, Cornflake Girl. Do you guys know Cornflake Girl? That's what Cornflake Girl is about. And a lot of people love Cornflake Girl. Like, that's a huge hit. And that's exactly what it's about. Or there's like that Suzanne Vega song, Luca. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor. Voices for Justice with Danielle is here. That song by Suzanne Vega called Luca is about hearing your neighbor getting her ass kicked by her significant other. And then, but she's going into the character of being the neighbor that she hears. And then there's a Tracy Chapman song that she sings a cappella. That is unbelievable. I might have to play it for you in case you've never heard it. The song about DV. If I play it, I'll probably cry, so maybe I shouldn't play it. It's called Behind the Wall. I'll put a link to it in the description. It's okay if I cry, right? I mean, if I cry, I like get over it really quickly. I don't like to cry in front of people. I don't want to mess up my mascara. Oh, I'm not wearing any. But you know how it is. Maybe I'll just go ahead and play it. For anyone who hasn't heard it. $28 or more. Even though it'll demonetize me, I don't care. Tracy Chapman's amazing.
Last night I heard the screaming, loud voices behind the wall. Another sleepless.
Stop! It did that to me yesterday too. I'm telling you, my phone is messed up. It's glitchy.
Last night for me, it won't do no good to call the police. Always come late if they come at all. Last night I heard the screaming, loud voices behind the wall. Another sleepless night for me, it won't do no good to call the police. Always come late if they come at all. And when they arrive, they say they can't interfere with domestic affairs between a man and his wife. And as they walk out the door, the tears well up in her eyes.
Have you guys heard this before?
Last night I heard the screaming, then a silence that chilled my soul. Prayed that I was dreaming when I saw the ambulance in the road. And the policeman said, I'm here to keep the peace. Will the crowd disperse? I think we all could use some sleep. Last night I heard the screaming.
I can take it.
Loud voices behind the wall. Another sleepless night for me. It won't do no good to call the police. Always come late if they come at all.
Chilling, isn't it? I was bawling my face off. It is embarrassing to do that in front of people, but I pull myself back together pretty quickly, so I'm okay with it. It's just embarrassing, and I don't want to embarrass you guys, but you aren't up here, so it's okay. That is one of her best songs. So Tracy Chapman, like Fiona Apple, I saw C3PO put Fiona Apple in there. She was also a victim of being raped when she was 12 outside of her New York City apartment. And that's what her entire first album is, her art therapy for recovering from that. And Tracy Chapman, she was, I don't know that she had any real horrible trauma like that, but she was in like a prep school. So obviously she's Black, but she was like an all white, basically, prep school in New York City. And she was just so talented. And she wrote most of her songs when she was 15. Tracy Chapman did. And yeah, Suzanne Vega, she's been writing songs her entire life. But yeah, let's talk about that Travis Scott concert. It was gross. Hey, Voices for Justice with Danielle. That one was terrible. Parents were going in past the cops to get their kids. The Uvalde, that was awful. And then when the report finally came out, and Matthew McConaughey, his mother was a teacher there when he was growing up. I don't think at the time, but he grew up, I think, going to that same school. No way, Jazz, you can't be gone from us. Oh, you're so cute, Annabise. No, if something were to happen like that, you'd find me on one of those other platforms. But I don't think it'll happen because, you know, freedom of speech. That's what the angry orange man baby is protecting, right? Like it's a free-for-all. You can just say and do whatever you want, right? As long as you're not being mean to him or being unfair. That's like his favorite word. Oh, it's so unfair. I've been treated so unfairly. The J6ers have been treated so unfairly. It's just like, dude, what are you, 4? I mean, come on. He's such a freaking child. Tracy has a beautiful voice. She does. I haven't heard this one before. Thank you for sharing. Oh, I'm so glad to play it for you. Yeah, like I said, it'll demonetize my video, but entirely worth it. As you know, I'm not really cashing in anyway. So it's cool. And I could always ask Tracy if I'm allowed to play her song. I bet she'd let me. Trauma leaks out sometimes, and that's probably why we are drawn to these cases. We want to right the wrong. Well, and I am constantly turning corners in my own personal healing by learning things from these cases that have parallels in my own life. You know, like the whole thing with my father making an attempt on my life. It's like in my early healing from that trauma and realizing that it was intentional, not accidental, that was some of the hardest stuff to think about, was that he didn't value me and that he would just, you know, throw me in the garbage like Chris Watts and his family. And it's not a statement about my value. It's a statement about his pathology, right? So it's like you really can't take anything personal, even when it is personal. Zanime messing with you, Annabise. That's cute. I have to highlight that one because, yeah, I saw it. I didn't know the context of it, but now I get it. So for anybody who doesn't know, the Travis Scott case, you know, 10 people were trampled to their fatal demise, and the youngest one, that little boy, what was he, like 9 years old or something? I think his parents were divorced and his dad took him to the concert. That was an expensive concert too. I think tickets were at least $200 or $300. Like, that was crazy. And I think also because it was the first big concert after COVID, that it was extra crazy. But, you know, it really seemed like it was intentional, the way they had so many people squeezed in, the way they were like making the people move back and forth, you know, because it's like a wave. And if you don't move with it, if you fall down, you'll get trampled. I mean, so many of those survivors have spoken, but a lot of them have filed class action lawsuits and taken settlements and signed non-disclosure agreements, which is insane. Absolutely insane. And Travis Scott is the baby daddy for Kardashian's little sister. What are their names? The Jenner girls, Kris Jenner's girls, that she had with Caitlyn Jenner, Kylie Jenner, and Kendall Jenner. So one of them had a couple of babies with Travis Scott. So Travis Scott is essentially a Kardashian, in my opinion, and can do whatever he wants. And when you look at these families with all this money, like the ones that are all on stage with the giant orange angry man baby zombie president, and Scammy Smith's family, and even like in the Meredith Kircher case, the families of Amanda Knox and Rafaela Scalito, like they're both well connected and have some big money. I mean, Amanda Knox's family was more middle class, but there's extended family who has a lot of money. Anyway, like in that television series from HBO, The Sharp Objects, when you've got these family members like the Kennedys, like the Skakels, when you've got these family members who are so connected and they do horrible things and you know about it, or you're even part of it, you were there, you were a witness but not a witness, or you helped clean up wittingly or unwittingly, but then later you figured it out. None of these people are ever going to talk. Like all of the people at the University of Idaho, none of them are ever going to talk, because if you talk, you're the next to go. Or like MC Ultra enlightened us with Truckee, you step out of line and it's not just going to affect you, it's going to affect your children and your grandchildren. Like you better buckle down for the next 20 years for the backlash. And that's pretty much the way it is in all small towns. So MC Ultra shared that with us in specific relationship to Kylie Rodney's case. And, you know, for that, we can thank her. She said way too much. And for that, we can thank her. I'm surprised that she hasn't been rubbed out. Her brother might have been, you know, her brother fell down a flight of stairs home alone. I think it was like New Year's Eve, like 20 years ago, something like that. You guys probably know, right? Let's see. Let's see if Google knows. The Tahoe history, man. Some dark, dark history. So I don't think it's going to tell us. No, like you can't find everything with Google, right? But I can find it and then share it with you guys. Oh, I wanted to share with you that this channel that I was talking about yesterday called Fair and Balanced, and the guy's first name is Farron. I think his last name is Cousins. He has another channel that has like 1.5 million subs, and it is called The Ring of Fire. And he's been pumping out some crazy ass videos that I'm going to link up in the description. So he had this one that I was just watching today. It's like a 4.5 minute video from maybe Tuesday, where he's questioning Steve Bannon, because Steve Bannon thought it was really weird that they canceled the outdoor inauguration. And Steve Bannon thought that it was because they were up to something with Trump, like that they were gonna like delegitimize his inauguration or something. Like Steve Bannon was saying this, not Fair and Balanced. Fair and Balanced was actually questioning the sanity of Steve Bannon. I was like, yeah, I think Steve Bannon probably knows what he's talking about. Because he was just like, this doesn't make sense. Like when Obama was sworn in, it was also 20 degrees that day, which is about the same that it was this past Monday in DC. And Obama had millions of people in the freezing cold weather there to celebrate his inauguration, like scores of millions. And that wasn't going to happen for the angry orange man baby zombie dude. And he wasn't going to have that. He can't ever be one-upped by anybody. He's got to have the biggest crowds. And I'm telling you, those accordion hands drive me nuts. Like, I use my hands a lot to express myself, but why does he do the accordion hands? It's like the same gestures no matter what he's saying. It's like he's just doing it so that he's not standing there with his hands down by his sides, but he's like a freaking robot. Like, it's so unauthentic. And it's pretty funny too. And I love that people call him accordion hands. So let's see. It almost happened to me in the 80s at an AC/DC concert in Arizona. I had a hold of two of my friends' collars. My feet weren't even touching the ground. I was just fighting to keep myself upright. Oh my goodness, Anna Bees. That is so scary. So I was at a Grateful Dead concert in Philadelphia at the Spectrum in the 80s. And I actually had tickets, but they were sold out and a lot of people didn't have tickets, and people like bum rushed the door, and I had to pick up my feet and let myself be taken in that way, because if I didn't, there was no if. Like, that's the only time I've been in a situation like that. And it was kind of ironic because I had a ticket, but I had not used my ticket to get in. And it was an expensive ticket. I was like, man, I didn't even need to buy that. Huh. But, you know, I wasn't as scared as I should have been. Like, to me, it was just kind of exciting because I was a stupid 19-year-old probably. That's the problem with teenagers. They don't realize how dangerous this crap is. And like a lot of people at the Travis Scott concert that night, that was only 2 years ago, wasn't it? Wasn't it 2022? No, it was 2021, right? It was the year before, Kylie, the Astrodome disaster. Right, because it was right after COVID. And so there was probably no concerts in 2020. So yeah, it was like fall of 2021. If I remember right, it was like November 5th because it was Kris Jenner's 66th birthday the next day, I think, on November 6th. So there were like all these sixes. And then that kid that was the rapper who did the live stream that got scrubbed. Oh, and I'm remembering the channel that had the little clip of it, because I'm kind of new to his work and I like a lot of what he does, but I don't like everything he does. So I'm going to find that link. I had linked it up in one of my videos a few weeks ago. I'm going to link it up again. So you guys can try to help me figure out the name of this young rapper. He's probably like 14 at the Astrodome. And I don't know if he was there alone or if he was with friends, but he did a really good job detailing what his experience was like there. And he was right in the thick of it. And then, you know, when that one girl got up on the stage and was like asking them to stop the concert because somebody died and they didn't want to stop the concert. I don't even think they did stop the concert. And then when the ambulance was coming in and Travis Scott had everybody like put both of their hands in the air, which was like completely the opposite of what should have been done to allow the ambulance to get to the people that they needed to get to. Like, it seemed like it was intentional. That whole thing was a freaking nightmare. And then, not to be completely insane, but, you know, didn't Bart Simpson like predict that whole thing? Have you guys seen that Simpsons episode that was from years before that's kind of about the whole Travis Scott Astrodome thing? Like, I am not kidding you. Okay, yes, I'm crazy. Give me the straight jacket. You guys may or may not know that I went to the same college as Matt Groening. He went to the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. He dropped out in 1987. I moved there to start in 1987. So he dropped out right before the summer. I moved there in the summer. So the campus bookstore was still filled with his silly line of cards, which was just Life in Hell with Matt Groening. And it was all just pen and ink. It was all just black and white, but it was super successful. And that's when he got signed on with Tracy Ullman. So he dropped out of school to do these little 2-minute color clip cartoons in Tracy Ullman's half-hour show of brilliant skits. That's where The Simpsons started. And then I was still a student at Evergreen. I think it was 1990 when it went national. And all of us that were at school there were so excited for our fellow classmate who was, hitting the big time. I remember watching the first few episodes of The Simpsons in the student union building with a whole bunch of other Evergreen students. And it was very, very cool. And yeah, now it's like the longest running show on television in the history of television. Like, it outlived MASH. And my kids were watching it the other day. It was like one of the most recent episodes, if not the most recent episode. And they were like having Maggie get older and stuff. They were having all of them get older or something. It was crazy. It was funny because when they first started the show, that was the plan, was that the characters would age, and then they didn't do that. They went the other direction where everybody was like frozen in time. And then for anybody who remembers the sitcom Rhoda with Valerie Harper, remember her sister in Rhoda? And Rhoda was from Mary Tyler Moore. She was Mary Tyler Moore's neighbor. And so in the Rhoda show, the woman who played her sister is the woman who plays Marge's sisters. And I don't know if she plays Marge too. I forget her name, but she had a very small acting career. She didn't make a lot of money. It wasn't long lasting. It was just that Rhoda thing. And then The Simpsons, she thought it was just another small thing to pay some bills and maybe do like television commercials or something. And it like made her a hit. So that's pretty cool, huh? I know all this weird trivia. I love it. So I hope you guys enjoy it too, because I've been yakking for an hour and a half. Maybe I should wrap it up. I'm so sorry that almost happened to you, Annabise. AC/DC in Arizona. I can only imagine that there were probably 50 or 75,000 people at a AC/DC Arizona concert in the 80s. Because I went to a lot of big concerts back then, like with the Grateful Dead, and the big ones, like that Philly was pretty big, but not as big as Alpine Meadows in Wisconsin that held 50,000 people. And there was, I think, Lexington, Kentucky that also was like 50,000 people. I saw them in Ventura. That was probably more than 50,000 people. But when you have a concert that big, even when nobody gets trampled, you're always going to have a fatality. You're always going to have an overdose or something. Always. So if you go to a concert with 50,000 people, you can pretty much bet your money on it. Sadly, because I saw a lot of things and I heard a lot of stories. And I talked with a lot of the rescue squad at these places because, I was always trying to stay safe, basically. And I kept going to those concerts even after I got 100% sober. So I was able to help some of my friends that were in too deep, if you know what I mean. And yeah, people go to these outdoor concerts in the sun, drinking, rugging, dehydrated, sun poisoning. I mean, your body can only take so much. So it's very tragic. And if you don't have like a designated sober person with you, I was at a Rolling Stones concert, you guys, in Seattle with my husband in probably right around the year 2000 or right before that. I saw the Stones play in Seattle a couple of times, but the first time I saw them play in Seattle was at the Kingdome before they blew it up. And we were like in the nosebleed seats in the back. And there was this woman like standing in behind the seats next to us who was so effed up. Like it was obvious that she was more than just drunk, that, you know, it was probably like H or something like that. And she was just totally out of it. And then I'm so sad to say this, but she fell on the people next to us. And I don't know if she broke their necks or not. It wasn't the people right next to us. It was like maybe 2 people over. So it's like, it could have been us, but they had to get taken out of there by medics on stretchers. And of course she wasn't injured anywhere near as bad as the people whose necks she fell on. But that was so crazy because I felt like such an idiot. Like I should have seen it coming, because I saw her and I knew she was so out of control, but I didn't think of something like that happening. It was awful. It was really awful. And then not knowing the outcome, you know, not knowing like if actually somebody's neck was broken, or, you know, if there was paralysis or what. I mean, we were lucky it wasn't us. There was a lot of people. I don't know how many, probably 50,000. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, good times, right? When I saw AJR play in Cincinnati this summer, it was probably less than 20,000. I don't know how big that stadium, it's called the Heritage Stadium. It was pretty close to sold out. I don't think it was sold out. It probably holds about 20,000. So it was probably slightly under that. But that seemed kind of small to me, having been to so many of those giant 50,000 concerts. Sounds like Scammy's life, possibly trying to forget what happened to her close friend. Yeah, flopping around at Rolling Stones concerts and falling on people. Absolutely. That's you probably have a crystal ball, Fred. That's probably exactly what she's got in her future. You know, she's also got a lot of money and people sucking up to her, people keeping her secrets. Like, I think that whole town and her and Kylie, I think that is all very, very, very parallel to the storyline in Sharp Objects that I keep talking about. So if you're interested in having some more insight into Kylie Rodney's case, I would say try to watch that mini series of Sharp Objects, because it goes into all of that. And yeah, it's like people in a small town can't rat out somebody when their family members could have them rubbed out or have their families destroyed. And then, you know, the really conniving criminals, and I think most criminals are conniving, they have the wherewithal to get other people involved, where, you know, if they have some of the red stuff on their hands, metaphorically speaking, then that buys their silence forever. Like, they can never say anything, because then they'd be self-incriminating too, right? Anna B says, it was very different back then. We were all able to bring our own coolers. The venue was Compton Terrace, the original Compton Terrace. There's a new one now towards Tuscan. Stevie Nicks owns it. Oh, how cool. That's great. She's still alive. You know, I just looked up Barbara Streisand yesterday to see if she was still alive. She's like 82, I think. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's start winding down. We've been on for over 90 minutes. I like to try to keep the videos from being too excessively long, even though I just love chatting with you guys and I could just keep on chatting away. I also want to keep them manageable, so that not only so that I can review it without having to spend 2 hours, but anybody who's interested can check it out without having to take that much time out. And you know what? I'm on top chat. So how many of your live chats did I miss? Did I miss anybody's big thing like I did the other day when I was on that? I'm going to just run through it real quick and see if there's anything that you guys said that I skipped over. If I can catch it. It seems like it maybe the chat rate was slow enough that it wasn't a problem. Yeah. So yeah, we need to see Dr. Strangelove, huh? And then that movie, The Apprentice, you know, the one that is probably nominated for some of the Oscars. I don't know. But I do know that when it came out recently, that the guy who it's about didn't want it to be released, and he was interfering with that. Again, you know, the whole thin skin. Like, if you're going to be a public figure, you have to have a thick skin and not take things personally. You know, people are going to criticize you. They're going to try to tear you down. You can't make everybody happy. Not everybody's going to like you. And it's not about being liked. It's about trying to serve your nation, right? I mean, I don't think that that's what he's trying to do. He always says that. He's always like, oh, I could have such a perfect life. I could be on the beach and everything. But, you know, I'm giving all that up because I love you guys so much. And then he's like threatening everybody. So, yeah, super annoying. And yeah, just the censoring. It's like, you know, people are going to say things about you that you might find unenjoyable, but if you're smart, you can use it. Like a lot of times the trolls that come into the chat, if you can like thicken your skin, you can really use it as like a jumping off platform. Like it can be some of the best material actually. And for that, we can thank them, right? Yeah, I'm so sad about that Tennessee shooting. And yeah, the Travis Scott concert and just how that ties in with the freaking Kardashians. It seems like everything ties in with the Kardashians to some extent, right? I mean, going back to the whole, we haven't talked about the P. Diddy lawsuit in a while with Celebrity A and Celebrity B, and Celebrity A being Daisy with the J, and Celebrity B being a famous female. That could be a Kardashian. That could also be a Naomi Campbell. It could even be Gwyneth Paltrow was hanging out with Diddy a lot back then. I think it's most likely that it was B. I really think it was B. It seemed like J-Lo was a top candidate too, but I think that they used her as a red herring to keep the attention off of B when they had that little accidental slippage of putting her name in some of the newly filed paperwork. And it could even be Aaliyah for all we know. Did you guys hear that there was an Aaliyah Barbie doll that just came out and it sold out in like 2 hours? Did you hear about that? We should look it up, right? So let's wrap it up, you guys. Love and light. Thank you so much for joining me. It's Friday night. It's almost 7. Have a really great weekend. I will try to do something with my channel over the weekend, but it's always hard to, I can't really commit to things because it gets so chaotic. You know, during the week is when there's routine, and it is, I don't want to say easier to get it done because it has not been easy with the holidays and people being sick, and then the snow days, you know, because I do this in my home and it's hard enough to work from home. You know, I mean, there's a lot of distractions. It's a lot easier to work not at home, basically. So anyway, I'm just grateful to have my channel. I'm always grateful to have time with you guys. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. have a really great night and a really great weekend. And I will see you soon. Love you guys. Let's see. End stream. Thanks again.